A poor widow thought the worst thing she'd ever bring home was another empty night. Until she found a dying alpha vampire on her doorstep. What happened next? No one was prepared for this. Before we begin, don't forget to like, share and subscribe for more stories as captivating like this one. Let's begin. The wind that night was cruel. It howled through the cracks of the old wooden house like a living thing. The small cottage stood at the edge of Hollow Creek Village, far from the laughter of the town square and too close to the dark forest that everyone feared. Inside, Evelyn Hart wrapped an old shawl around her thin shoulders as she stirred a pot of weak soup. The fire was dying, but she didn't have the heart to add the last piece of wood. That would mean tomorrow night there would be no fire at all. Her children, Liam and Rose, sat quietly by the table. Liam was 10, serious, quiet, and too grown for his age. Rose was 7, bright-eyed and gentle, clutching a rag doll with missing buttons. "Mom," Rose whispered, "are we going to have bread tonight?" Evelyn forced a smile. "Tomorrow, sweetheart. Mrs. Gray said she might have some extra from the bakery." Liam looked up from the cracked bowl in his hands. "You said that yesterday." Evelyn's hands paused over the pot. The truth was cruel. She didn't have a single coin left. Her husband, Thomas, had been gone for 6 months now. He went into the woods one night to hunt and never came back. They found his coat, torn and blood-stained, near the river. The villagers said it was wolves. But deep down, Evelyn knew the truth was darker. "Liam," she said softly, "eat what's here. We'll find a way." The boy nodded, though he didn't look convinced. He was old enough to understand that "we'll find a way" was just a mother's way of keeping hope alive. Outside, the wind picked up, rattling the shutters. The night felt colder than usual, heavy like it carried a secret. After the children went to bed, Evelyn sat by the window. The forest loomed in the distance, black, endless, whispering. Some said the old woods were cursed, that creatures walked there at night, things that fed on blood and shadow. She whispered a small prayer. "Keep us safe tonight, please." The candle flickered once, then went out. Hours passed. The moon climbed high. Then a sound broke the silence. Thud. Then another. Something or someone was dragging itself through the mud outside the house. Evelyn froze. Her heart began to hammer. She looked toward the children's room. Both were asleep. Grabbing the old fire poker, she crept to the door. The sound came again, closer now. A low groan, heavy breathing, the crunch of boots against gravel. She whispered, "Who's there?" But the wind swallowed her voice. The door creaked as she opened it. The night was dark, but the moonlight fell across a figure collapsed in the dirt. It was a man. At least he looked like one. He was tall, dressed in torn black clothes, his skin pale as snow. Blood soaked his shirt, spreading across his chest like a red flower. His silver eyes, strange, cold, almost glowing, fluttered open as he tried to speak. "Help me," he rasped before collapsing again. Evelyn's first instinct was fear. Every story, every warning from the village screamed at her to shut the door and pray. But there was something about his face, a deep, broken look that mirrored her own pain. She dropped the poker and knelt beside him. "Sir, can you hear me? What happened to you?" His hand twitched weakly. His skin was cold, unnaturally so. "Please don't let them find me." Who's after you?" But he didn't answer. He had lost consciousness. Evelyn looked toward the forest. The wind carried a strange sound, distant howls and whispers. A chill ran down her spine. She couldn't leave him out here to die. If she did, the guilt would haunt her forever. "God forgive me," she whispered as she dragged the man inside. He was impossibly heavy, his body tense like stone. She laid him near the fireplace and covered him with a blanket. His breathing was shallow, almost non-existent. The wound on his chest was deep, far too deep for any normal man to survive. She cleaned it with trembling hands, whispering softly to herself, "You'll be all right, you'll be fine," though she didn't believe it. For hours, she sat beside him, keeping the fire alive and watching the strange man between fear and pity. Just before dawn, he stirred again. His lips moving, whispering a single word she didn't understand. Sounded like a name. Or a curse. Then silence returned. When the first light of morning entered the room, Evelyn leaned back and exhaled. Whatever or whoever this man was, fate had brought him to her door. And her quiet, broken life was about to change forever. The next morning was gray and cold. Mist hung over the forest like smoke. Evelyn woke with a stiff neck. She had fallen asleep on the floor near the stranger. He was still there, pale but alive. His chest rose and fell slowly, like someone lost in a deep sleep. His shirt was torn open where she had bandaged him, and his skin underneath looked almost marble white, without a single scar. "Strange," she murmured. "That wound should have killed him." As she watched, his fingers twitched and then, his eyes opened. Silver. Cold. Sharp as moonlight. Evelyn gasped and stumbled backward. His gaze locked on her like a blade. "Where am I?" His voice was rough, deep, like thunder after a storm. "You're in my home," she said quickly, clutching her shawl. "You were hurt. I found you last night near the woods." He looked around slowly, eyes narrowing. "You should not have brought me here." "Well, you were dying," she replied, trying to sound braver than she felt. "I couldn't just leave you." He studied her, truly looked at her. The tired eyes, the trembling hands, the thin frame of a woman who had known too much loss. "Still," he said quietly, "you should have run." "Run from what?" she asked. His gaze drifted to the window, where the forest waited in silence. "From me." Before she could ask more, small footsteps approached. "Mommy." Rose peeked into the room, rubbing her eyes. "Who's that?" Evelyn quickly stood in front of the stranger. "It's okay, sweetheart. Is a traveler. He got hurt and needs rest." Rose's curiosity pushed away her fear. She walked closer and tilted her head. "He looks like a prince from my storybook." The man's lips curved slightly. "A prince," he repeated, voice soft but sad. "Not quite." Liam entered next, his eyes suspicious. "Where did you find him, Mom?" "By the woods," Evelyn answered. Liam frowned. "You told us never to go near there." "I know," she sighed. "But he needed help." The stranger's silver eyes softened when he looked at the children. "You have brave little ones," he said. "They shouldn't see me like this." Evelyn frowned. "You're safe here. No one's going to hurt you." A faint smile crossed his face, the kind that doesn't reach the eyes. "You believe that?" She didn't know what to say. "Rest," she said finally. "You need your strength." He nodded, but when she turned to leave, he whispered, "Thank you." Evelyn heart. Her steps froze. "How do you know my name?" He didn't answer, just closed his eyes. A chill passed through her body. That afternoon, Evelyn went to the river to fetch water. The villagers were gathered nearby, whispering as usual. She could feel their eyes on her, the poor widow who talked to herself and lived too close to the woods. Mrs. Gray, the baker's wife, called out, "Evelyn, you should be careful. There were screams last night." Evelyn stiffened. "Screams? They say another farmer's cow was found drained of blood," Mrs. Gray said, lowering her voice. "Could be wolves. Or worse." Evelyn forced a nervous smile. "I'm sure it's just wolves." But her heart was pounding. Last night, the man she found had been drenched in blood. Could it be? Well, she refused to believe it. He was wounded. He couldn't be the monster they spoke of. Still, unease followed her home like a shadow. When she entered, the man was awake again, sitting by the fire. He had cleaned himself and looked less pale. Somehow he had found his coat, mended it neatly, and sat like a nobleman in a peasant's chair. Evelyn stopped in the doorway. "You shouldn't be moving." He turned his head toward her, eyes glinting. "I heal fast." "I can see that," she said cautiously. "What's your name?" He hesitated before answering. Damien. Damien Blackthorne. The name felt old, heavy like it carried centuries behind it. Well, Damien, she said, setting down the water jar. You're lucky I found you before the wolves did. His gaze held hers. You think it was wolves that did this to me? I don't know, she admitted. But whatever it was, it nearly killed you. He gave a faint, humorless chuckle. If only it were that simple. Evelyn frowned. You speak like a man with enemies. I have more than you can imagine, he said. But for now, they will not find me. There was a silence between them. Heavy but not hostile. She could sense something broken in him. Something deeply human despite the strange aura he carried. Are you hungry? She asked finally. His expression shifted, almost pained. You shouldn't ask me that. Why not? Because I am, he said softly. But not for food. Evelyn's heartbeat quickened. What do you mean? He looked away. Forget it. I will manage. No, she insisted. You're under my roof. I won't have you starving here. He looked back at her then, and for a moment his silver eyes darkened, flickering like candlelight. Careful, Evelyn Hart, he said in a low voice. Some hunger is not meant to be fed. The words sent a chill through her, but strangely she didn't back away. Instead she whispered, Then I'll just make sure you don't go hungry in any way I can. He blinked, almost in disbelief. You are either brave, he murmured, or very foolish. Maybe both, she said with a faint smile. For the first time, something softened in his eyes. He leaned back in the chair and closed his eyes, whispering almost to himself. It's been a long time, since anyone cared whether I lived or died. Evelyn watched him quietly, unsure if she should be afraid or comforted. There was sadness in his voice. Deep, ancient sadness, like a man who had walked through centuries of loss. That night rain fell, soft at first, then fierce. The roof leaked in 3 places, and the wind howled again, carrying a sound that made Evelyn's heart skip, a faint scream from somewhere deep in the forest. Damien's eyes opened instantly. He rose, moving faster than she thought possible. Stay inside, he said sharply. What is it? She asked. Something's hunting. Not wolves this time. Before she could stop him, he was gone, out into the storm, cloak billowing like wings. Evelyn ran to the door, clutching her shawl, but the night swallowed him whole. Lightning flashed. For just a moment, she saw his silhouette at the edge of the woods. And she saw something else. Tall, dark shapes moving among the trees. Then silence. She slammed the door and held her children close as thunder rolled across the sky. Hours later, the door creaked open again. Damien stood there, drenched in rain. His eyes glowing faintly in the firelight. There was blood on his hands, not his own. Evelyn's breath caught. What did you? He raised a hand. Do not ask. She wanted to, but the words wouldn't come. His presence filled the small room. Power, danger, and something else she couldn't name. He looked at her and spoke softly. You saved my life, Evelyn Hart. But you may come to regret it. Why? She whispered. Because, he said, voice like a whisper of thunder. From the moment you brought me into your home, your world stopped belonging to you. And just like that, the quiet, simple life of the poor widow and her children was gone forever. The storm outside was nothing compared to the one that had just entered their lives. The next morning came slow and gray. Mist curled over the wet earth outside, and the sky looked heavy with more rain. Evelyn rose early, though she hadn't slept much. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Damien's pale face, those silver eyes glowing faintly in the dark, and the blood that didn't seem to be his. She quietly checked on the children. Liam and Rose were still asleep, curled together under a thin blanket. She brushed hair from Rose's face and whispered, "Sleep well, my little ones." Then she turned toward the main room. The fireplace had gone cold. But Damien wasn't there. The blanket she'd covered him with was folded neatly by the chair. His boots, once torn, were clean. The door was slightly open. Evelyn's heart jumped. He left, she whispered to herself, unsure if it was relief or disappointment she felt. Maybe he had gone back into the forest. Maybe the danger was gone with him. She stepped outside. The morning air bit her skin, and her bare feet sank into the damp ground. She scanned the clearing and froze. Damien was standing a few yards away, shirtless, facing the forest. The wound on his chest, the deep, bloody gash that should have taken weeks to heal, was gone. Not even a scar remained. He turned slowly when he sensed her. The light hit his face, and for a second, he looked almost human. Tired, thoughtful, beautiful in a way that felt wrong to look at for too long. Evelyn's voice came out in a whisper. "You're healed." He nodded slightly. "Yes. But that's not possible. You were dying." He looked at her with a faint, unreadable smile. "I told you. I heal fast." She took a step closer. "What are you?" He didn't answer. Instead, he turned his gaze toward the woods again. "You should move away from this place, Evelyn. It's not safe anymore." "This is my home," she said quickly. "I can't just leave." "The world beyond the forest is safer than this," he replied, voice low. "They'll come for me and anyone near me." "They? Who are you talking about?" His jaw tightened. "The ones who did this," he said quietly, touching his chest. "Hunters. And worse." She folded her arms. "You owe me answers, Damien. You show up half dead on my doorstep, talk about monsters and hunters, and now you tell me I'm in danger? You can't expect me to stay quiet." He studied her face for a long time, then said softly, "You're brave." "I'm a mother," she replied. "That's not the same as brave. It's just survival." A faint shadow crossed his face like a memory. "I used to know someone like you," he murmured. "She had the same fire." Evelyn tilted her head. "What happened to her?" He looked down. "She died." The silence that followed was heavy, filled only by the rustle of wind in the trees. Finally Evelyn sighed. "If danger's coming, then we'll face it. But you'll stay until you're strong enough to leave. That's all I can offer." Damien's silver eyes met hers. "You're offering more than you should." "Maybe," she said softly, "but that's who I am." He gave a quiet laugh, not out of humor but disbelief. "You really don't fear me, do you?" Evelyn smiled faintly. "Should I?" He looked away. "Yes." That day passed quietly but not peacefully. Damien kept mostly to himself, staying near the window, watching the forest with eyes that missed nothing. Rose, as always, was curious. She tiptoed over to him while he sat sharpening a strange silver dagger. "Mr. Damien," she said shyly. He glanced down. "Yes, little one. Are you a knight?" He looked at her for a moment, then smiled faintly. "Once, a very long time ago." Liam, standing by the door, frowned. "Knights don't have eyes that glow." "Liam," Evelyn warned. But Damien only chuckled quietly. "He's observant. That's good." He turned to Liam. "Not all knights wear armor. Some fight battles you'll never read about in books." Liam didn't respond, but something softened in his gaze. Even at 10, he could sense the strange sadness that clung to Damien like a shadow. That evening the sky darkened early. Evelyn went to fetch water again, but when she returned, Damien was gone from the chair. "Damien," she called quietly. She found him outside, standing in the field, staring toward the forest again. His hand was clenched around the silver dagger, and his face was tense. "What is it?" she asked. He didn't turn. "They're close." "Who?" "Hunters. They can smell me, even now." His voice was calm, but she could hear the danger beneath it. "I brought trouble to your door." Evelyn's breath caught. "Then go. Don't stay here if it means they'll hurt us." He finally turned toward her, and his expression softened. "You think they'll stop with me? They'll come for anyone who helped me. You've already chosen your side, whether you realize it or not." Her voice trembled. Then what do we do? Damien's silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. You hide. I fight. That night, Evelyn couldn't sleep. She sat by her children's bed, listening to the wind outside. Every creak made her jump. When she finally stood to check the door, she found Damien standing silently in the shadows. He gasped. You scared me. Good, he said. Fear keeps you alive. He stepped closer. His voice was softer now. If anything happens tonight, take the children and run toward the river. Don't look back. What about you? I'll be fine, he said simply. I always am. Evelyn shook her head. You're only one man. He looked at her then, and in that moment she saw something that didn't belong to any ordinary man. His pupils were thin, sharp, like a wolf's. His presence filled the room with a strange energy, heavy and cold. Evelyn, he said quietly, I'm not just a man. The next night the attack came. Started with the dogs. Their barks turned to howls, then silence. Then the scent of smoke. Evelyn ran to the window and saw lights moving through the trees. Torches, a dozen of them, maybe more. Damien, she whispered urgently. They're here. He was already at the door, dagger in hand. Stay with the children. Don't open this door for anyone but me. Damien, please. He turned to her, and his eyes were no longer human. They glowed silver with streaks of crimson. Do as I say. Before she could protest, he was gone, into the night, swallowed by the storm. Evelyn held her children close as screams and shouts echoed from outside. The smell of burning wood filled the air. She could hear steel clashing, men shouting prayers and curses. Mommy, what's happening? Rose cried. Evelyn hugged her tighter. It's all right, my love. It's going to be all right. But it wasn't. The door burst open moments later, and two men with crossbows stormed in. Where is he? One shouted. The creature you're hiding. Evelyn stood in front of her children. There's no one here. The man raised his crossbow. Lie to me again, woman, and you'll die with him. Before he could fire, the window shattered. Something dark and fast flew through the air. Damien. He landed between them in a blur. One hunter screamed before Damien's hand caught his throat and slammed him against the wall. The other tried to run, but Damien's dagger found him first. The man fell silently, eyes wide in shock. Evelyn froze, trembling. Damien turned toward her, eyes burning red. His teeth, sharp, inhuman, glistened with blood. She took a step back, instinctively pulling her children behind her. Damien, what are you? He didn't answer. For a moment, he looked like a predator trying to remember what mercy was. Then his expression broke. You shouldn't have seen that. He stumbled, clutching his chest. The blood on his hands wasn't just theirs. It was his too. The silver dagger he carried burned faintly where it had cut him. Evelyn's fear gave way to concern. You're hurt again. He tried to speak but fell to his knees. The silver, it burns. I can't. Without thinking, she rushed to him. Stay still. He shook his head. No, don't touch me. My blood, it's poison. I don't care, she shouted. You saved my children. Let me help. Her hands pressed against the wound, trying to stop the bleeding. His skin was ice cold, yet his pulse, if it could be called that, beat fast beneath her touch. He looked up at her, eyes softening. You don't know what I am, Evelyn. Then tell me. He hesitated, then whispered. Vampire. The word hit her like a knife. She had heard stories all her life. Creatures of the night, drinkers of blood, cursed souls who lived forever and killed to survive. But none of those stories mentioned eyes filled with sorrow like his. She didn't move. She didn't scream. She just looked at him. Finally, she said quietly, then let me be the fool who saved a monster. He stared at her in disbelief. You'd risk your life for me? I already did, she said, voice trembling but firm. Now hold still. Her hand slipped, and his blood smeared her skin, dark, almost black under the firelight. Damien hissed as pain surged through him. His body trembled violently. She realized then what he needed. Not bandages. Blood. He turned away. No. I won't. She understood without him saying more. You're starving, aren't you? He didn't reply, but the truth was written all over his face. Then take it, she said quietly, pulling back her hair to expose her neck. His eyes widened. No. If I feed, I might not stop. I trust you, she whispered. He looked at her for a long moment, the widow who had nothing but courage left to give, and then he moved. His lips brushed her neck, cold as death. Then came the bite. Pain flared for a second, then melted into something warm, dizzying. Evelyn gasped, her hands clutching his shoulders as he drank. It wasn't violent. It wasn't monstrous. It was desperate, like a man tasting life after years of dust and darkness. When he finally pulled away, his eyes were no longer red. They were silver again, bright and human. Evelyn, he whispered, voice shaking. Why would you do that? She was pale, breathing hard. Because you needed it. And because, I don't know. Maybe I'm tired of being afraid. He stared at her, as if trying to understand the strange creature she was. You should hate me. Maybe I should, she said softly. But I don't. He looked down, hands trembling. You don't know what you've done. My blood, and yours. They've mixed now. It creates a bond. What kind of bond? He met her eyes. A dangerous one. You'll feel me. You'll dream what I dream. If I die, you'll feel that too. Evelyn's lips parted. Then we'll both have to stay alive. For the first time, Damien laughed. Not mockingly, but softly, almost like a man rediscovering hope. Outside, the fire from the burning fields began to fade. The night was quiet again except for the rain. Evelyn leaned against the wall, dizzy but calm. Damien wrapped a cloak around her shoulders, his touch careful, almost reverent. Rest. I'll keep watch. She looked up at him. Do you still think I should be afraid of you? He met her gaze for a long time, then whispered, I'm starting to think I should be afraid of you. That night, while the children slept, Evelyn dreamed for the first time in months. In her dream, she was walking through endless fog. A shadow followed her, tall, silver-eyed, whispering her name. And though she knew it was dangerous, she turned toward it anyway. For 3 days, the rain didn't stop. It fell in sheets, washing the blood from the ground, hiding the scars of the attack. But Evelyn couldn't wash the fear from her heart. Every shadow outside the window felt alive now. Every gust of wind sounded like footsteps. Inside the cottage, things were quiet. Too quiet. Liam had grown distant, his young eyes carrying questions he didn't dare ask. Rose clung to her mother more than ever, whispering at night, Is Mr. Damien going to leave us? Evelyn didn't know how to answer. Damien had barely spoken since the attack. He stayed near the window, motionless, staring into the forest like he was waiting for something or someone. On the 4th morning, Evelyn found him outside, standing shirtless in the rain again, as if the cold couldn't touch him. The silver in his eyes looked brighter, sharper, almost dangerous. You'll catch your death, she said softly. He turned, rain running down his face. Death and I are old friends. Evelyn stepped closer. You've been like this since that night. You barely eat, barely speak. What are you waiting for? He looked at her for a long time, then said quietly, They'll come again. Who? The ones who sent those hunters. They won't stop until I'm gone. His voice was flat, but his eyes flickered with something darker. Pain, guilt, maybe rage. They know I'm weak now. They'll send more. Evelyn crossed her arms. Then we'll leave. He shook his head. You can't run from them. You can only face them. I have children, Damien, she snapped. I can't risk their lives because of you. He turned to her, voice low but fierce. You think I wanted this? You think I meant to bring death to your door? You saved me, Evelyn, and because of that they'll come for you too." Her anger melted into fear. "Then what do we do?" His voice softened. "We prepare." For the next few days, the cottage became a fortress. Damien sealed the doors with salt and herbs Evelyn had never seen before. He carved strange symbols into the wood, muttering words that made the air hum with power. Liam followed him everywhere, asking endless questions. "Are you really a vampire? How old are you? Can you fly?" Damien's answers were always short and calm, but there was kindness in his tone. One evening, as Damien sharpened his blade, Liam sat beside him and asked quietly, "Were you ever human?" Damien paused, looking at the boy. "A very long time ago." "What happened?" "I made a choice I couldn't undo." Liam frowned. "You regret it?" Damien's voice turned almost a whisper. "Every night." Evelyn overheard this from the doorway. The words lodged deep in her heart. That night, after the children had fallen asleep, she found Damien sitting alone by the dying fire. The room was dim, the air thick with smoke and silence. "You care about them," she said softly. He didn't look up. "They remind me of something I lost." "What was it?" "Peace," he said simply. "Before all this, I had a kingdom. My own kind followed me. I ruled with strength, not cruelty. But when I wanted to stop the killing, when I tried to make peace with humans, my brother saw it as weakness." Evelyn sat across from him. "Your brother?" "Lucien." He said the name like a curse. "He turned our people against me. He wanted blood, war, power. When I refused to help him, he sent hunters after me. His own flesh and blood." Evelyn's eyes widened. "You mean, the ones who attacked us?" He nodded slowly. "They serve him now. They call themselves the Blood Hunters. Humans blessed with vampire strength, cursed with his magic. Then you're not safe anywhere." "Neither are you," he said, meeting her gaze. "He'll come for me and for you." Evelyn swallowed hard, her hands trembling slightly. "And if he does?" "I'll kill him," Damien said flatly. "Even if it's the last thing I do." The following morning, Rose ran into the room crying, "Mommy, there's something outside." Evelyn rushed to the window. The fog was thick, but through it she saw movement, a dark shape near the edge of the woods. Not human, not animal, something else. "Stay inside," Damien ordered. He stepped out barefoot, cloak swirling behind him. The air around him grew heavy, the rain pausing as if the world itself held its breath. The shadow moved closer, a figure with glowing red eyes and pale skin. Spoke with a hiss. "The lost alpha still hides among cattle." Damien's voice was calm, deadly. "Tell Lucien I'm coming for him." The creature smiled, revealing fangs. "He already knows." Before Damien could move, the creature lunged. The two collided with a thunderous crack, their speed too fast for human eyes. Damien's dagger flashed, slicing the creature's throat, but it didn't fall. It laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. Evelyn clutched her children, watching in horror as the monster dissolved into smoke. Damien returned minutes later, breathing hard, blood staining his hands. "A scout," he said. "They're close." Evelyn trembled. "How many?" He looked out into the mist. "Enough to burn the world down." That night, the forest was alive with whispers. Damien didn't sleep. He stood guard at the door, eyes glowing faintly in the dark. Evelyn couldn't rest either. She sat beside him, her heart pounding. "Why do you still stay?" he asked suddenly. "You could run. Leave me to my fate." She shook her head. "Because you saved us. Because I couldn't live with myself if I left you to die again." He looked at her, studying her face as if memorizing it. "You don't understand what this bond has done, do you?" "I understand enough," she whispered. "I feel you sometimes. When you're angry, when you're afraid. It's like you're inside my mind." He nodded slowly. "Our blood connected us. If I die, you'll feel it. If I feed, you'll know. Our lives are tied now. Evelyn swallowed hard. Then we'll just have to stay alive together. Damien almost smiled. You speak as though you're unafraid of death. I am afraid, she said softly. But I'm more afraid of living without hope. He looked at her for a long time. Then he said quietly, You remind me what hope feels like. The hunters came at midnight. The air grew heavy first, a stillness so deep it felt wrong. Then came the smell of smoke and iron. Damien's head snapped up. They're here. Evelyn grabbed her children and hid them under the trapdoor that led to the old cellar. Stay quiet. No matter what happens, don't come out. Mommy, Rose began, but Evelyn pressed a finger to her lips. Do as I say. She turned to Damien. We'll fight together. He shook his head. No. You'll die if you do. She met his gaze. Then I'll die protecting my family. I won't hide while you bleed for us. Something flickered in his eyes. Pride, fear, maybe love. Very well, he said. But stay behind me. The first torch hit the house moments later. Flames crawled up the walls. Shouts echoed from outside. Burn the demon out. Kill the widow. Damien kicked the door open, stepping into the inferno with his blade drawn. He moved like a storm, silent but unstoppable. The hunters surrounded him, silver arrows and holy marks glowing in the dark. Damien Blackthorn, one shouted. By decree of Lord Lucian, your reign ends tonight. Damien's voice was cold. Then let it end in blood. He leapt forward. In a blur of motion, he tore through them. The sound of steel and bone filled the night. But there were too many. A silver arrow struck his shoulder, burning through flesh. Another pierced his leg. He roared, grabbing one man and crushing his throat before falling to his knees. Inside, Evelyn grabbed a fallen bough. She'd never shot one before, but she didn't care. Through the window, she saw one hunter raising his sword above Damien's neck. Her hands shook, then steadied. She loosed the arrow. It hit the man's chest. He dropped instantly. Damien turned, surprise flashing in his eyes. She stood there, breathing hard, bow in hand. You're not fighting alone, she said. He gave a dark smile. Remind me never to underestimate you. He rose again, fueled by rage and something stronger, bloodlust. His eyes glowed red as he ripped the arrow from his shoulder and charged. One by one, the hunters fell until the clearing was silent again. When it was over, Damien collapsed to the ground, blood dripping from his wounds. Evelyn ran to him, tears streaking her face. Damien, stay with me. He was pale, weaker than she'd ever seen him. I need blood. Without hesitation, she offered her wrist. Take it. He shook his head weakly. No, you'll die. I said take it. Her voice broke, trembling with fear and desperation. He hesitated 1 second longer. Then his fangs sank into her skin. The pain was sharp, but then came warmth, strange and deep. She could feel his heartbeat through her veins, feel his strength returning as her body grew weak. For a moment their breaths synced. She felt his memories, flashes of a throne of shadows, a brother's betrayal, centuries of loneliness. Then it was over. He pulled away, wiping her blood from his lips. Evelyn, he whispered, voice thick with emotion. You shouldn't have done that. She smiled weakly. You'd do the same for me. He caught her as she swayed. You're changing, he murmured. My blood is in you now. It's protecting you, healing you. Good, she whispered. Then I can keep fighting. He stared at her, stunned. You're extraordinary. She looked up at him, eyes soft. No, just stubborn. He laughed quietly, the sound deep, real, almost human again. For a brief moment, the firelight danced over them like a promise. But the peace didn't last. From the forest, another howl rose. Long, low, filled with fury. Damien's smile faded. Lucian knows. Evelyn's stomach turned cold. He's coming, isn't he? Yes, Damien said. And he'll bring hell with him. He stood, pulling her to her feet. From now on we fight not just to survive, but to win. Evelyn nodded, her body trembling but strong. Then we'll win. He looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who had saved him twice, who had given blood and heart without fear. You're not just a widow anymore, he said softly. You're the reason I still live. Outside thunder rolled. Inside, two hearts, one mortal, one cursed, beat in the same rhythm. The night had taken everything from Evelyn once before. But this time she wasn't the hunted. She was the flame. The dawn came in silence after the attack. Smoke still curled from the charred remains of the fence, and the scent of burned wood lingered in the damp air. Evelyn sat on the porch steps, her arm bandaged, her face pale but resolute. Damien stood a few feet away, staring at the tree line where the last of the hunters had fallen. The world felt fragile, too still, too quiet. Liam and Rose stayed close to their mother, both of them shaken. Liam, who once idolized Damien's strength, now looked at him with something between awe and fear. Rose hid her face against Evelyn's dress, whispering, "Will they come again?" Evelyn gently stroked her hair. "Not today, sweetheart. Not today." Damien turned toward them, his eyes softer now, almost human. "They'll regroup before coming again. Lucien doesn't rush. He'll want to make you afraid first." Evelyn frowned. "He'll fail." He smiled faintly, a sad curve of his lips. "He'll try harder once he realizes you're no ordinary human anymore." Her brows furrowed. "What do you mean?" "The moment I drank from you," he said, stepping closer, "and you from me, something ancient awoke. The bond between us isn't just blood, it's power. My essence shields you. You're faster now. Stronger. You heal quicker." Evelyn blinked, her heart pounding. "I'm not one of you, am I?" "No," Damien said softly. "You're still human. But you're tied to me. Half in the light, half in the dark." Rose tugged on her mother's sleeve. "Mommy, are you sick?" Evelyn forced a small smile. "No, darling. Just tired." Damien's gaze lingered on Evelyn's face, and for the first time since he'd arrived at her doorstep, there was something tender in his expression, something dangerous. That night, as the children slept, Evelyn found herself standing outside under the pale moon. The air smelled of wet earth and ash. She could feel something in her blood, a hum, a low vibration that pulsed beneath her skin. Damien approached quietly. "You can feel it, can't you?" "Yes," she admitted. "It's like I can hear the forest breathing." He nodded. "That's the bond. You're connected to the night now, just as I am." She turned to him. "And what happens if you die?" His jaw clenched. "Then part of you dies with me." The words hung heavy between them. "I didn't ask for this," she whispered. "I know," he said quietly. "Neither did I. But fate doesn't care what we want." For a long moment neither spoke. The moonlight painted his face in silver, highlighting the faint scars along his neck. He looked less like a monster and more like a man who had been fighting too long. Evelyn took a deep breath. "You said Lucien was your brother. What was he like before?" Damien's eyes drifted to the stars. "He was the brightest soul I knew. Loyal, fierce, unstoppable. We fought side by side for centuries. But ambition is a slow poison. When I sought peace with the humans, he saw it as betrayal. He said I was weak, that compassion would destroy our kind. And now he hunts you." "Yes. To him, I'm a stain that must be erased." Evelyn's voice softened. "And what about you? What do you want now?" He turned to her, his gaze burning. "I want to end the bloodshed. To destroy Lucien if I must. And after that—" He hesitated, his voice lowering. "To live. To remember what being alive feels like." Evelyn met his eyes. "Then you already started, Damien. You're alive now." His lips parted as if to respond, but no words came. The silence stretched, and for a heartbeat, The world faded away. The forest, the pain, the fear. Only the two of them existed, bound by blood and something deeper. Finally, Damien looked away. You should rest. Tomorrow we train. Train? She asked, startled. If Lucien comes, you'll need to fight. And I'll make sure you can. He turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Evelyn standing under the moonlight, a widow no longer helpless, no longer afraid. She looked down at her hands. They didn't tremble anymore. The next morning the training began. At first Evelyn struggled. Damien taught her how to move silently, how to strike fast, how to listen with more than her ears. Your instincts are stronger now, he told her. Trust them. When she hesitated to strike, he caught her wrist and said, Fear is natural, but hesitation kills. Again. By noon, her muscles ached, her palms were bruised, but her spirit blazed. Liam watched proudly from the sidelines while Rose cheered. Go, Mommy! For the first time in years, Evelyn felt power coursing through her. Not anger, not desperation, but strength. Real strength. As dusk fell, Damien handed her a dagger. Short, silver-handled, the blade engraved with the same symbols he had carved into the door. This belonged to my mother, he said. She believed even light has fangs when cornered. Evelyn took it carefully. Thank you. He nodded. You've earned it. Their eyes met again, and something unspoken passed between them. Trust, respect, maybe more. But the moment was broken when a raven landed nearby, black as night, its eyes glowing faintly red. Damien stiffened. Lucien's watching. The bird tilted its head, then flew off into the woods. Evelyn gripped the dagger. Then let him watch. We'll be ready. That night the dreams came. Evelyn found herself walking through a grand hall made of stone and shadow. Torches burned along the walls, lighting a throne carved from black marble. On it sat a man, tall, regal, cruelly beautiful, with Damien's eyes but colder, emptier. Lucien, she whispered. He smiled. Ah, the widow. So you're the one who's stolen my brother's heart. I don't fear you, she said, though her voice trembled. Don't you? He purred, standing. His movement was fluid, his presence suffocating. Damien always had a weakness for fragile things. He thought love could tame the monster within. But love is just another form of hunger. Why are you doing this? She demanded. He stepped closer, his voice low and poisonous. Because he betrayed our kind. He chose humans over his own blood. I warned him once. Mercy makes fools of immortals. And now, he smiled cruelly. Now I'll remind him what it costs. Before Evelyn could speak, he reached out and touched her cheek. His hand was cold as ice. Tell him I'm coming, he whispered. And tell him I'll take from him what he cherishes most. Then the world shattered. Evelyn woke with a scream, drenched in sweat. Damien was already beside her, gripping her shoulders. What happened? Her chest heaved. He was here, in my dream. Lucien. He spoke to me. He said he's coming for you, for us. Damien's expression darkened. He's testing the bond. He can sense you through me now. He's trying to weaken your mind. Evelyn shivered. He said he'll take what you cherish most. His eyes met hers, burning, haunted. Then he'll come for you. A heavy silence fell. Damien stood and began pacing. We need to move. If he knows where we are, it's only a matter of time. Where will we go? He stopped, staring out the window into the forest. There's a place deep in the northern woods, an old temple built before my kind turned to war. It's protected by ancient wards. We'll be safe there for a while. Evelyn rose, clutching her shawl. Then we leave at dawn. He nodded. By sunrise they were on the road. The air was sharp and cold, the forest stretching endlessly before them. Damien carried the few supplies they had left, while Evelyn walked with the children, keeping close to his side. For hours, the only sounds were footsteps and the occasional crack of branches. At one point Liam asked, Mr. Damien, do you ever get scared? Damien smiled faintly. Every creature fears something, Liam. Even monsters. What are you scared of? He hesitated, glancing at Evelyn. Losing the people I swore to protect. Evelyn's throat tightened. She said nothing, but the words lodged deep in her heart. By nightfall, they reached a clearing where moonlight spilled through the trees. At its center stood the ruins of an old stone temple, overgrown with moss and vines. Ancient symbols glowed faintly on its walls, pulsing like a heartbeat. This is it, Damien said. The Temple of Shadows. Evelyn looked around, awed. It's beautiful and sad. Like most things that survive war, he replied. Inside, they found shelter in a chamber that smelled of dust and time. Damien lit a few torches, and soft golden light flickered across carvings of winged creatures and battles long forgotten. Rose ran her fingers over one of the carvings. Who are they? Guardians, Damien said quietly. The first of our kind. They believed power should serve life, not destroy it. Like you, Evelyn said. He shook his head. I lost that path long ago. She stepped closer. Then find it again. For them. For us. For a moment, he looked at her like she was sunlight breaking through storm clouds. You speak as though you believe in me. I do, she said simply. He reached out slowly, brushing his fingers against hers. Hesitant, reverent. Then perhaps there's hope yet. Later, after the children had fallen asleep, Damien sat alone by the fire. Evelyn joined him, wrapping a blanket around her shoulders. You never rest, she said softly. Sleep doesn't come easy when your nightmares wear your brother's face. She smiled faintly. You sound almost human when you say that. He chuckled quietly. You make me remember how to be. Silence settled between them, gentle and warm. Then Evelyn asked, if Lucien finds us here, what will you do? I'll end it, Damien said. Once and for all. And if you don't make it? He looked at her, his voice low. Then you must run. Take the children. Never look back. She shook her head. I won't run again. Not this time. He reached out, touching her cheek lightly. You're stronger than you know, Evelyn. Her eyes met his. So are you. The fire crackled, painting their faces in gold and shadow. Slowly, Damien leaned closer. His voice barely a whisper. If I were still a man, I'd have kissed you long ago. Her breath caught. Then remember what it feels like to be one. For a heartbeat, the world disappeared. No hunters, no curses, no fear. Just them. Their lips met softly, trembling, uncertain but real. When they finally pulled apart, Evelyn's voice trembled. What happens now? Damien looked toward the dark doorway, where the wind whispered like a warning. Now, he said quietly, we wait for hell to find us. And far beyond the forest, in a place where the night never ended, Lucien smiled in the shadows, for he had finally found his brother's heart. The next 3 days at the temple passed in uneasy peace. The wind carried no scent of blood, no echo of pursuit. Evelyn dared to hope, just a little, that perhaps Lucien had lost their trail. But Damien didn't rest. Every night, he trained alone under the moonlight, his body moving with lethal precision. The rhythmic sound of his blade cutting through the air became Evelyn's lullaby and her warning. He was preparing for war. Evelyn busied herself keeping the children fed and calm, though Rose had nightmares every night. Liam grew more withdrawn. The boy who once smiled easily now watched his mother with quiet worry. One morning, Evelyn caught sight of herself in a cracked mirror inside the temple. Her reflection startled her. Her skin looked pale, her eyes a shade too bright, like the moonlight had seeped into her. She touched her cheek, and for the briefest moment, her fingertips felt cold as ice. When she turned, Damien stood behind her. His gaze was steady, knowing. It's beginning, he said softly. What is? The bond strengthening. My blood is fully merging with yours now. Your senses, your body, they're changing. Fear flickered across her face. Will I become like you? No, he said, stepping closer. Not unless I take your life completely. You'll remain human. Just no longer ordinary. She searched his face. And if I wanted to stay ordinary? His jaw tightened. It's too late for that. Evelyn turned away. Her reflection fractured between shards of glass. I never asked for this. I know. He hesitated. Neither did I. But fate decided differently. She looked at him in the mirror, her voice trembling. Then help me live with it, Damien. Don't let it consume me. He nodded slowly. I'll keep you whole. I swear it. That night the dreams returned, but they weren't Evelyn's. They were Damien's. He saw himself standing in a crimson throne room. Blood dripped from the walls like rain. Lucien stood before him, smiling that same cold, beautiful smile. Brother, Lucien said, spreading his arms. You run from what you are, but darkness always finds its way home. Damien raised his sword. You've turned our kind into monsters. Lucien laughed. We are monsters. You're just the only one still pretending to be a man. Lightning split the ceiling, and for a moment, Damien saw Evelyn, bleeding, chained, calling his name. Lucien's hand was around her throat. Damien lunged. Then he woke. He sat upright, gasping, sweat slick on his skin. Evelyn stirred beside the fire, her face peaceful in sleep. For the first time, Damien felt something close to terror, not for himself but for her. He rose and walked outside into the cold night. The forest was still. But the stillness was wrong, too perfect, too measured. Then he heard it, a faint whisper on the wind, a voice that wasn't human. You can't protect them, brother. Damien turned slowly. In the shadows between the trees stood a figure cloaked in black. His hair was silver, his eyes like burning embers. Lucien. Damien's hands curled into fists. So it begins. Lucien smiled. No, little brother. It ends. Before Damien could react, Lucien vanished into mist. The air around the temple grew heavy, suffocating. The wards on the walls flickered, symbols glowing and then dimming one by one. Damien ran inside. Evelyn! Wake the children! Evelyn's eyes flew open. What's happening? He's here. The ground trembled, dust raining from the ceiling. Liam and Rose screamed as the walls shook. From outside came whispers, hundreds of them, like a chorus of lost souls. Damien drew his blade, the air vibrating with dark energy. Stay behind me. The first wave hit like a storm. Shadows poured through the temple doors, forming into creatures with burning eyes and skeletal wings. Their screeches pierced the air. Evelyn grabbed the dagger he'd given her. Go to the back, she shouted to the children. Don't look. Damien cut through the monsters like a living weapon. Each strike was fire and fury. Evelyn fought beside him, her movements instinctive now, almost unnatural. Her blood thrummed with his power. But for every creature they killed, two more rose. Damien, she cried, slashing through one. We can't hold them. He turned, eyes blazing red. We don't have to win. Just survive. A massive figure stepped into the doorway then. Lucien himself, pale and regal, dressed in black silk. The room seemed to bow under his presence. Still protecting your little pets, brother, he said. His voice calm, almost amused. Tell me, how long do you think you can keep playing human? Damien growled, his fangs bared. This ends tonight. Lucien's smile widened. Yes, it does. He raised a hand and the shadows froze. You should have stayed dead, Damien. You brought this curse upon yourself. Damien lunged, blade flashing, but Lucien caught it with bare hands. The steel hissed against his skin but didn't cut. With a flick of his wrist, he sent Damien flying into the stone wall. Damien! Evelyn screamed, rushing forward. Lucien's gaze turned to her. Ah, the widow. You're prettier than I imagined. He stepped closer, circling her like a predator. Tell me, Evelyn, what did he promise you? Redemption. Love. Immortality. Evelyn lifted her dagger. He promised me choice. And I chose him. Lucien laughed. Oh, you poor thing. His smile turned sharp. You don't even realize what he's done to you. Look at your reflection. Look at your eyes. His blood is inside you. You're his slave. Her voice trembled but didn't break. I'm no one's slave. Then prove it. Lucien snapped his fingers, and the floor split open. A dark mist rose, twisting into the shape of her late husband, Thomas, pale, hollow-eyed. His voice faint and broken. Evelyn. The apparition whispered. You let me die. You replaced me. Evelyn's heart clenched. No, it's not real. Lucien smiled cruelly. Oh, but it feels real, doesn't it? Don't listen to him. Damien shouted, staggering to his feet. But the illusion's words cut deep. Evelyn dropped to her knees, tears streaking her cheeks. The ghost reached for her, cold fingers brushing her skin. Join me, it whispered. Or lose everything again. Her hand shook around the dagger. She almost dropped it. Then she heard Damien's voice, raw, desperate. Evelyn, you saved me from death. Don't let him take you into it. Something inside her snapped. She stood, eyes glowing faintly silver. The air around her pulsed with energy. Get out of my head, she screamed, stabbing the dagger into the apparition. It exploded in a burst of light and smoke. Lucien stumbled back, momentarily surprised. Evelyn turned toward him, breathless but fierce. You may be his brother, but you'll never break me. Damien was beside her now, his wounds already healing. Together, they stood against Lucien as fire and shadow collided around them. Lucien's smile returned, crueler than ever. Impressive. But love makes you weak, brother. And I know where to strike. He vanished again, only to reappear behind Rose. Evelyn screamed. Everything came in silence after the attack. Lucien's hand closed around Rose's arm, the charred remains of the fence, his nails sinking into her skin. The scent of burned would linger in the damp air. Frozen Evelyn with terror. Sat on the porch Damien steps, roared, her arm bandaged, that wasn't human. Her face pale but resolute. Let her go. Damien lifted the girl slightly off the ground, staring at the tree line where the last of the hunters had fallen. The world felt fragile, what you love. Too still. Evelyn lunged forward. Liam and Rose power slammed her against the wall. Both of them she shaken. Gasped, unable Liam, to move. Who once her idolized Damien's strength. Liam shouted, now looked at him running with something between awe and fear. Leave her alone. Rose hid her face against laughed. Evelyn's dress, the brave boy. Will they just come again? Like your mother. Evelyn before gently he could harm her hair. Damien appeared behind him in a blur. Not driving his blade straight Damien through Lucien's turned side. The steel eyes softer now, Lucien almost screamed, human, tossing Rose aside before coming she again. She hit the ground hard Lucien but doesn't rush. Damien pushed to make the blade you afraid deeper. First. This ends Evelyn now. Frowned. Lucien He'll twisted, fail. Blood pouring from the wound. He smiled faintly, but instead of sad curve of his lips. You forget, He'll try brother. Harder once he realizes you're no ordinary human anymore. He grabbed the blade, pulled it free, and drove it through Damien's chest. The moment I drank from you, Evelyn's scream echoed through the temple. And you from Damien me, fell to his knees, awoke, clutching the bond wound. Between us isn't just blood, close, it's whispering. My now, essence watch shields your world burn. You're faster now. He raised his hand, you and fire quicker. Erupted around Evelyn them. Blinked, the temple shook, pounding, stones collapsing from the ceiling. Am I? Evelyn crawled to Damien, said softly, tears streaking her face. You're still human. No, but you're tied to me. With me. Half in the light, he coughed half in blood, the dark, reaching for her Rose hand. Tugged on her Evelyn, mother's sleeve. The children. Mommy, they're are safe. You sick? She sobbed. Evelyn forced a small don't talk smile. Like that. No, Lucien darling. Advanced just slowly, tired. His Damien's gaze lingered on Evelyn's face. It's over. And for the first time since he'd arrived at her doorstep, red again. There was something not tender in his expression. He grabbed Lucien's wrist and sank his fangs as the children slept. Lucien Evelyn found herself standing outside under the air filled with energy so violent it cracked the ground beneath them. She could feel something in her blood. Cried. A hum, a low vibration. He turned his head toward her, his voice hoarse. Damien approached the children. Run. You can feel it. She shook her head. Yes, I'm not leaving, she admitted. It's like I can hear the forest blood on his lips. He nodded. You're the light in my darkness, Evelyn. You're connected to the night now, before it takes you as I am. Lucian's laughter rose. And what happens if you die? The collapsing temple. His jaw clenched. You can't kill me, part of you dies with me. We are eternal. The words hung heavy between them. Blazed. I didn't ask for this, together, she whispered. I know. He grabbed Lucian and forced him into the flames. Neither did I. The explosion that followed care what we want. For a long moment his name as the fire swallowed them both. The moonlight painted his face in silver, highlighting the faint scars along his neck. Dawn broke over the ruins. He looked less like a monster through the forest, and more like a man Evelyn who had been fighting buried under fallen stone. Evelyn took a deep breath. Her body bruised, you said but Lucian was your brother. She coughed. What was he crawling like out before? From the rubble? Damien's eyes drifted to the stars, but he was gone. He was the brightest soul I knew. Only ash remained where the fire had burned unstoppable. Liam and Rose side by side from the centuries. But ambition is a slow poison. Evelyn when I pulled them peace close, with the humans, her tears silent. He saw it as betrayal. Gone? Rose asked he softly. He said I was weak. Evelyn that couldn't compassion answer. Would destroy she our looked kind. At the ruins, and her now chest he aching with something deeper than grief. To him, I'm a stain whisper that must be erased. So faint she almost Evelyn's thought it was voice the wind. Softened. Evelyn, and what about her breath you? Caught. What do you want now? The whisper came again, he turned to echoing her, his inside her mind. I want to end the bloodshed in your blood, to destroy she closed Lucian her eyes, if I must. Tears and falling after freely that, now. He hesitated, she whispered, voice lowering. I swear to live. The to forest was what quiet being again, alive feels but the like. Air shimmered faintly. Evelyn met his eyes. Like something unseen then you was already still watching, waiting. Damien. Evelyn took her children's hands and began his walking toward the rising as if to sun. Respond. Behind her, deep within the ruins, the silence stretched, and for a heartbeat beneath the world ashes, faded away. One that did not belong to the living, the fear. Only the two of them existed, bound by blood and something deeper. Finally, Damien looked away. You should rest. Tomorrow we train. Train? She asked, startled. If Lucian comes, you'll need to fight. And I'll make sure you can. He turned and disappeared into the darkness, leaving Evelyn standing under the moonlight, a widow no longer helpless, no longer afraid. She looked down at her hands. They didn't tremble anymore. The next morning the training began. At first Evelyn struggled. Damien taught her how to move silently, how to strike fast, how to listen with more than her ears. Your instincts are stronger now, he told her. Trust them. When she hesitated to strike, he caught her wrist and said, Fear is natural, but hesitation kills. Again. By noon her muscles ached. Her palms were bruised, but her spirit blazed. Liam watched proudly from the sidelines while Rose cheered. Go, Mommy. For the first time in years, Evelyn felt power coursing through her. Not anger, not desperation, but strength. Real strength. As dusk fell, Damien handed her a dagger. Short, silver-handled, the blade engraved with the same symbols he had carved into the door. This belonged to my mother, he said. She believed even light has fangs when cornered. Evelyn took it carefully. Thank you. He nodded. You've earned it. Their eyes met again, and something unspoken passed between them. Trust, respect, maybe more. But the moment was broken when a raven landed nearby, black as night, its eyes glowing faintly red. Damien stiffened. Lucian's watching. The bird tilted its head, then flew off into the woods. Evelyn gripped the dagger. Then let him watch. We'll be ready. The forest had never been so silent. Evelyn's bare feet sank into the damp earth as she guided Liam and Rose away from the ruins. The dawn light barely touched the sky. Smoke still curled from the shattered temple like ghosts refusing to rest. Every breath hurt. Her arms ached from dragging stones, searching for Damien long after the fire died. But all she found was his cloak, torn, blackened, still warm from the flames. Rose clutched the edge of it as they walked. Is he really gone, Mama? Evelyn swallowed hard. He's not gone. Just somewhere we can't reach yet. Liam looked up. Like Papa. Her lips trembled. Something like that. They reached a small stream, and she made the children rest. The cold water stung her fingers as she washed the soot from their faces. Her reflection wavered in the surface, paler than before, eyes faintly glowing silver. Damien's voice echoed inside her mind again. soft as a heartbeat. I'm still here, in your blood. She closed her eyes, gripping the riverbank until her knuckles whitened. Then help me, she whispered. Help me protect them. A gust of wind brushed her cheek, warm despite the chill. It almost felt like an answer. By nightfall, they found refuge in an abandoned cottage near the valley's edge. The door creaked as Evelyn pushed it open, revealing dust-covered furniture and the faint smell of dried herbs. It'll do, she murmured, ushering the children inside. We'll stay here for now. After settling the children, she sat by the cold hearth. The silence pressed on her chest. She touched her arm, where Damien's blood had once burned through her veins. Her skin pulsed faintly, silver veins glowing beneath. When she exhaled, the air frosted. The change was accelerating. She picked up a small knife and pressed it gently against her palm. A single drop of blood fell, dark red streaked with faint crimson light. It hissed as it touched the ground. She gasped, dropping the blade. What am I becoming? Mine, came the faint whisper inside her mind. For more. Her heart pounded. Damien. Listen, the voice said, clearer now. Lucien lives. The fire couldn't hold him. You must find the relic, the heart of shadows, before he does. It's the only way to end this. She shook her head, tears welling. I can't do this alone. You're not alone, the voice said. I'm within you, every breath, every heartbeat. Believe, Evelyn. You have my strength now. And just like that, the voice faded, leaving her with a strange calm. When she turned, she found Liam watching from the corner. Were you talking to someone, Mama? She forced a smile. Just remembering. He frowned. You sound different. Evelyn brushed his hair. So do you, my love. You sound braver. The days that followed blurred together. Evelyn hunted small animals in the woods, discovering that her sight cut through darkness like daylight. Her movements were quicker, stronger. She could hear every heartbeat in the forest. But with every new strength came new hunger. At night, the scent of blood called to her. She fought it, terrified to wake the children and find herself changed into something monstrous. On the fourth night, the hunger overwhelmed her. She stumbled outside, clutching her chest. Her veins burned like fire, her fangs cutting through her gums. A stag stepped from the trees, and before she could think, she pounced. Warmth flooded her mouth. The animal's life poured into her like liquid fire. When she came back to herself, she fell to her knees beside the lifeless creature, sobbing. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Then a hand touched her shoulder. Don't be, said a deep, familiar voice. She froze. Slowly she turned. Damien stood there, shirt torn, eyes glowing faintly, his body scarred but alive. Evelyn's heart stopped. Damien. He smiled weakly. It takes more than fire to kill me. She ran into his arms, shaking. I thought you were gone. I almost was, he murmured, brushing her hair. But your blood pulled me back. She looked up at him, eyes wide. Lucien, he's still alive. I know. His expression hardened. I felt him. He's weak but not defeated. And now he'll come for you. Then we'll run again. Damien shook his head. No more running. This ends where it began. Evelyn touched his chest. The heart of shadows. You mentioned it in my mind. He nodded. It's an ancient relic, the source of our bloodline's curse. Destroy it, and Lucien loses his power. Then we find it. He smiled faintly. You sound like a warrior. She held his gaze. Maybe you made me one. They left at dawn, leaving the children safe in the care of a nearby village. Liam tried to protest, but Evelyn knelt before him, cupping his face. I have to finish this, she said. For you and your sister. I promise I'll come back. You promise. With my life. Damien placed a hand on the boy's shoulder. I'll bring her home. As they walked away, Evelyn didn't look back. If she did, she might never leave. The journey to the mountains took 3 days. The air grew colder, the forests darker. Damien explained that the heart was hidden in the catacombs beneath the ruins of their ancestral castle, the place Lucien had turned against him centuries ago. On the second night, as they camped beneath twisted trees, Evelyn noticed the moon reflecting crimson in Damien's eyes. "You're weak," she said softly. He smiled. "Fire does that to a man." "Drink from me," she said suddenly. His expression darkened. "No. You'll die if you don't." He shook his head. "Your blood's different now. It would bind us forever. A bond you might not want." She met his gaze. "I already have it. You're in me, Damien, your strength, your pain. If we share this, maybe we can end him together." He hesitated, then leaned forward. His fangs grazed her neck, and when he bit, the pain was sharp, then sweet. She gasped, gripping his shoulders. The world around them dissolved into a blur of light and shadow. Every heartbeat merged into one. For a moment, she saw through his eyes. Centuries of loneliness, guilt, and the endless search for redemption. When he pulled away, their eyes glowed the same shade of crimson. He whispered, "I'm sorry." "For what?" "For loving you when I shouldn't." She smiled sadly. "Then we share the same sin." By the third day, the mountains rose like jagged teeth against the sky. A storm gathered as they approached the castle ruins. Lightning flashed over broken towers and crumbling walls cloaked in vines. Damien stopped at the gate, his hand hovering over the rusted iron. "This is where it began," he murmured. "This is where I lost everything." "Then let's finish it here," Evelyn said. They descended into the catacombs beneath the ruins. The air grew thick with the smell of ancient blood and dust. Torchlight flickered across stone walls etched with sigils. At the end of a long corridor stood a massive door of obsidian, pulsing faintly like a beating heart. "The Heart of Shadows," Damien whispered. He reached for it, but a blast of energy threw him back. Lucien stepped out from the darkness behind the door, unharmed and smiling. "Did you really think I'd let you destroy it?" he asked. "You owe your life to me, brother, to our blood. You owe me worship." Evelyn stood in front of Damien, eyes glowing. "I owe you nothing." Lucien's smile faded. "You smell like him. You drank his blood. Oh, how deliciously tragic. He took everything from me, and now he gives everything to you." He lifted his hand, and the ground split open. Specters rose. Hundreds of vampiric souls, twisted and screaming. The air filled with their cries. Damien gripped his sword. "Stay behind me." Evelyn shook her head. "Not this time. We fight together." And she did. Her movements were fluid, almost inhuman. Each strike of her blade carved through the phantoms. Damien moved beside her, their energy in perfect synchrony. But Lucien was untouched. He watched them with cold amusement. "You can't kill me without killing yourselves," he said. "The heart binds us all. Destroy it, and your souls burn with mine." Damien hesitated. Evelyn looked at him. "Then we burn." He stared at her, then nodded. Together they thrust their hands into the heart's surface. Pain ripped through them. Lucien screamed as the entire chamber shook. Light and darkness collided, twisting into a storm of energy. Lucien fell to his knees, his body crumbling to ash. Damien collapsed, the life draining from his eyes. Evelyn caught him, sobbing. "Stay with me." He smiled weakly. "It's done. He's gone." "No, you can't leave me." He brushed her cheek. "I'm not leaving. I'm free." His body dissolved into silver light, spreading through the air until nothing remained but warmth. Evelyn screamed, the sound echoing through the catacombs. The Heart of Shadows shattered completely, releasing a wave of pure light that washed over the world. When the light faded, she lay alone on the cold stone floor. Outside, the storm had cleared. The sky was pale and golden. She rose slowly, her body aching but alive. For the first time since this nightmare began, the air felt clean. No more whispers, no more shadows. She looked up toward the sunlight streaming through the ruined ceiling. "I'll live for you," she said. "I'll keep the light you gave me." And as she walked out of the catacombs, a soft voice echoed in her mind. No longer a whisper but a promise. Always. The sunlight that filtered through the forest canopy felt different now. Softer. Warmer. Yet Evelyn could not shake the silence that followed her like a shadow. Days had passed since the Heart of Shadows was destroyed. The world felt reborn, rivers clearer, skies brighter, but within her the ache remained. Damien's essence still lingered in her blood, faint as an echo but constant, pulsing like a heartbeat that was no longer her own. She returned to the small village where she had left Liam and Rose. As she walked through its gates, the villagers froze. Her presence was no longer that of a fragile widow. She moved with quiet grace, eyes glowing faintly in the sunlight. "Evelyn!" gasped the baker's wife, dropping her basket of flour. Evelyn only smiled faintly. "It's me." From the far end of the square, Liam's voice rang out. "Mama!" He sprinted toward her, Rose right behind him. Evelyn dropped to her knees as they collided into her arms. Tears spilled freely as she held them close, inhaling their warmth. "You came back," Rose whispered. "I promised I would," Evelyn murmured, kissing their foreheads. "And I always keep my promises." They stayed like that for a long while. Then, as the sun dipped below the hills, Evelyn led them home, to the small cottage she had once thought would be temporary. But now, as firelight flickered against its walls, it felt like peace. For the first time in months, Evelyn cooked dinner, laughing softly as Rose complained about the taste of herbs and Liam tried to steal extra bread. It was simple, ordinary, beautiful. Yet when the night deepened and the children slept, Evelyn sat alone by the window. Her reflection in the glass was no longer entirely human. Her eyes glowed faintly silver, and her pulse beat too slow. She whispered into the darkness, "You're still here, aren't you?" And the wind stirred, carrying a familiar voice. "Always." Her eyes filled with tears. "I can feel you in every breath, every heartbeat. Is this my punishment or my gift?" "Both," Damien's voice replied softly. "You bear what remains of my soul. You are my redemption, Evelyn. The curse broke because of you." Her lips trembled. "Then why does it still hurt?" "'Cause love always does." She pressed her hand to her chest. "What am I supposed to do now?" "Live," he whispered. "Raise them. Teach them strength. The blood inside you is light now, not darkness. Use it to protect, not destroy." A tear slid down her cheek. "And you?" "I am where I was meant to be. Within you, within the dawn." She smiled faintly through her tears. "Then watch over us, Damien. Watch over your family." The wind quieted, leaving behind a peaceful stillness. For the first time since that night in the temple, Evelyn felt no fear of the dark. She looked at the horizon where a sliver of moon rose over the treetops and whispered, "We survived." And in her blood a soft warmth answered, like the brush of lips against her skin. Over the next weeks, life began to take shape again. Evelyn became something of a mystery to the villagers. Some said she had been blessed by angels, others whispered she'd made a deal with the night itself. But to those who met her eyes, calm, steady, and filled with impossible light, no one dared to doubt her goodness. She healed the sick with a touch, calmed restless hearts with a word, and when the storms came, she walked through the rain unafraid, her presence enough to make the lightning bend away. Liam grew tall and strong, protective of his mother and sister. Rose, curious and fearless, spent her days chasing the sunlight and asking stories about the man with the red eyes and soft voice who once lived in the dark. Evelyn told them the truth, but gently. "He was someone who saved us," she would say. "Someone who taught me that even in the darkest night, love can still be a light." The children believed her, and so life found rhythm again. But peace is never eternal. One evening, as Evelyn fetched water from the stream, she noticed something strange. Her reflection rippled differently, as if something below the surface watched her. She leaned closer. The water shimmered, and suddenly a face appeared beneath the ripples. Familiar. Damien. Her breath caught. Damien. His voice echoed faintly through the wind and water. There's something you must know. The heart is gone, but the shadows linger. Lucien's essence did not die. It scattered. He will rise again through another vessel. Evelyn's heart tightened. Then I'll find him. I'll finish what we started. You cannot fight alone this time. The blood you carry is the balance. You are light and darkness in one. You must choose which to feed. Her jaw tightened. I choose the light. Always. The reflection smiled sadly. Then prepare. The final reckoning draws near. The image faded, leaving the stream calm once more. Evelyn stood slowly, water dripping from her fingers. Her pulse throbbed, glowing faintly beneath her skin. She looked toward the mountains where the ruins lay, feeling the stir of something ancient moving beneath the earth. She whispered, "If he rises, I'll be ready." And the forest whispered back, a chorus of unseen voices, echoing Damien's oath. Always. 2 months later the first sign came. The moon turned blood red. Evelyn woke from a restless dream, her children asleep beside her, and stepped outside into the crimson light. The air felt heavy, humming with energy. In the distance wolves howled, but their cries were not mournful. They were warnings. She looked toward the mountains and her heart sank. A dark mist was rising from the ruins of the castle, twisting, writhing, reaching for the sky. The remnants of Lucien's power had awakened. Evelyn turned toward the house. Liam. Rose. Stay inside. She threw on her cloak and began the climb toward the mountains before dawn broke. Her body moved with inhuman speed, her feet barely touching the ground. The blood inside her glowed, guiding her path. At the base of the ruins she saw him, or rather it. Lucien's form was reborn in shadow. His eyes twin voids of hatred. He was weaker, fragmented, but still dangerous. Well, his voice hissed, distorted and echoing. The widow lives. Evelyn's grip tightened around the silver dagger at her belt. And the monster still clings to the dark. He smiled, cruel and cracked. You think love can erase what we are. Damien's sacrifice only delayed the inevitable. You are mine now, part of our bloodline. Every beat of your heart feeds me. She raised her dagger. Then I'll stop my heart before I let you take it. Lucien's laughter shook the air. Brave words from a broken soul. Not broken, she said softly. Reborn. Light exploded from her eyes. The mark of the bond on her wrist flared crimson, then gold. The ground beneath her feet cracked as the energy of both bloodlines, light and shadow, collided within her. Lucien recoiled. Impossible. Evelyn's voice deepened, echoing with Damien's tone woven within it. You don't understand, brother. You didn't just create monsters. You created redemption. She lunged forward, moving faster than sound. Their clash shattered the ruins, waves of energy rippling through the valley. Lucien struck her with blasts of shadow. She answered with waves of pure light. Each strike tore pieces from him, his screams filling the air. But with every blow, her strength weakened. The balance inside her trembled, darkness begging to take over, light straining to hold. Lucien sensed it. You can't win, he hissed. Your love for him made you weak. Evelyn staggered but smiled through her blood. No, it made me strong enough to love what others feared. With a final breath, she drove the dagger into her chest, straight into the mark of her bond. A blinding explosion engulfed the world. Lucien's scream turned into silence as he was ripped apart. His essence scattered into nothingness. When the light faded, Evelyn lay motionless on the cracked stone floor. Her heartbeat slowed, then stopped. For a moment everything was still. Then, a pulse of gold light spread from her body, soft and endless. Her wounds healed, her eyes opened, glowing pure silver. She breathed, and Damien's voice filled the air around her, no longer distant but whole. You did it. Tears streamed down her face. It's over. Then let me rest. His tone was gentle but firm. You carry the legacy now. Not of our curse, but of our choice. Life, protect, love. Her lips trembled. Will I ever see you again? Look at the dawn, Evelyn. There. She stood, the dagger dissolving into light in her hand. As the sun rose over the valley, its rays touched her face. For the first time, the warmth didn't burn her. It embraced her. She whispered to the wind, I'll live enough for both of us. And the light answered, soft, warm, eternal. Weeks later, the villagers spoke of a woman who walked the forest paths at dawn. Her hair kissed by sunlight, her eyes like molten silver. They said no creature dared to harm her, and wherever she stepped, flowers grew in her wake. Children claimed to see a man of light walking beside her in the mist, always a few paces behind, always watching. Evelyn never denied it. Every night, she tucked Liam and Rose into bed and looked toward the stars, whispering the same words. Thank you. And somewhere beyond the veil of light and time, Damien watched, proud, peaceful, redeemed. The curse had become legend. The widow had become the savior. And love, born of blood and shadow, had rewritten destiny itself. If you want to know how far this vampire will go to protect the family that saved him, make sure you hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and stay tuned for the next chapter. Because the real shock hasn't even started. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also leave a comment of what you think about this story. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.